please do so. So we were thinking about doing research and the development of tools in sustainability at the BIBB, and thought together with colleagues what is happening not only in one profession to be sustainable, but in the whole along the supply chain, and how to introduce sustainability within all professional profiles. Since 4 years now, we have been implementing a so-called cross-cutting competence, as it is in environment and sustainability, that is a must to implement for all training providers. Let it be schools, let it be companies, let it be other providers. There is the right for all apprentices to get knowledge about sustainability within their profession. This is more or less by law. So how to do that? That is really complicated, especially also for companies, how to introduce more sustainability in the different professional trainings, especially also for in-company trainers. It's might be more, it might be easier for schools, but for the companies always having their client order in the background of making profits, that tends to be difficult. So what is a mandatory action in this is the continuing training of vet personnel, and to take the time to look at products and services along the supply chain. Next, please. So I don't want to stop for a long time at the definition of sustainability. We included a fourth dimension, the cultural dimension. We could discuss that, but concerning sustainability and pedagogical input for young people, I think it does make a change if you holistically see the whole picture of sustainability. But you get the PowerPoint anyhow, so I don't want to bore you with any further reading on the slide. Next, please. We are acting on the background of digitization, demography, and decarbonization. And a lot of people say, oh, this is green skills, this is green jobs, this is green professions. Traditionally in Germany, it's 14 so-called green professions, more in the field of horticulture, agriculture, landscaping, but it absolutely, and that is also the charm about, as you know, the dual system. There are so many profiles that fit also into the sustainable definition, as electromobility, as construction, as painters, as electronic technicians, etc., and especially also the environmental professions that are just currently being renewed in Germany, but also the paper technologist or retail salesperson. So everywhere, in every profession, the apprentices have the right to get input, content concerning sustainability. Next, please. So this tool, and Julia will continue to talk about it, the VET chain, is getting there to have a positive, in order to gain a positive impression of what is sustainability, that it is doable within a profession, that the companies, but also schools, should at least define minimum requirements, considering it being a part during examinations. And the most important last point is getting started together. I think with the next generation, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, are slowly also entering the market in apprenticeship models. They have the right to get this knowledge, and I think they are more interested in getting this knowledge. And so again, the trainers and in-company trainers and school personnel, they have to be fit in order to comply with the questions that the younger generations have. Next, please.
Up next will already be the details on our vet chain tool. So
Yeah, and this is when Julia takes over.
thank you. So, looking at these challenges and how these challenges can also be tackled in vocational education and training, we have thought about how we can come from these very broad terms to a very hands-on application level. So this is why we have developed the vet chain as an interactive workshop tool, which can be used in a physical face-to-face environment or also in an online format, which we'll also see or get a glimpse of in one of the breakout sessions. So what do we target at with our vet chain workshop tool? First of all, we want to really foster the discussion about sustainability in vocational education and training, and looking at this aspect alongside a supply chain of basically any given product or service. We also want to raise awareness for the aspect of sustainability in training through that tool, and also look at, basically have our participants have a brainstorming about possible impacts, but also possible ideas how they can treat the topic within the training environment. And we also aimed at developing a workshop tool that can be used in different project contexts and also on different levels of a vocational training system, on a macro and meso level, but also on implementation level. So as I said, it's adaptable to different sectors, products, services, whatever you can think of, any supply chain. And our idea was also to have it, in both formats as a face-to-face and online version. So how does it look like in practice? When we do that workshop in a physical environment, which unfortunately will not be possible today, but still we want to walk you through the proceedings of a physical workshop, we would start with an introduction by explaining the supply chain. For example, also then telling the product that we are dealing with. In that case, on the pictures that you see here, the supply chain was walking through the supply chain from grain to the final product, which was bread in the end. And we had different stations already predetermined in that setting. The second step was, of course, for the participants to get to know each phase of the supply chain, each step and each station, so to say. What happens there? What are the processes? Do we need to add an additional station, or is the supply chain complete as it is? Then, as a third step, we would usually discuss with the participants what kind of training occupations play a role in that particular station. For example, if you have a baking shop, then obviously a baker would be a profession that plays a role there, but also maybe a salesperson that sells the bread to the final customers. So for each of the stations, we would discuss with the participants what are potential dual training professions that play a role here. Of course, here it is important to guide the participants that they don't, come up with academic professions, because we want to focus on vocational education and training. And then also the participants would outline the main tasks and responsibilities of these professions that are involved at each station of the supply chain. The next step is where we now enter, the real discussion on sustainability aspects. We would identify together with the participants threats and challenges that exist at each of the stations, looking at environmental factors, economical factors, but also the social aspects of sustainability. And through discussions, the groups would then actually discuss how these aspects can be solved within vocational education and training, because we don't want to find solutions to general problems here of sustainability, environmental protection, and so on. No, we want to look at these challenges within the frame of vocational education and training. And this is where we would always guide the participants also in the workshop to see how these threats can be dealt with within the vocational education and training. For example, by developing a project that can be done with the apprentices, or by implementing additional topics into the training curriculum. In the last phase of the VET chain workshop, we then do a final review with the participants of the approaches they have discussed and developed. And depending on also what is the target of the workshop, you can either enter in a project planning so that you detail potential steps for an implementation project, or we have also created results templates to summarize aspects that can be changed within the training curriculum, for example. So this is a bit how the VET chain instrument method looks like in practice. And here are some of the impressions, from the cards, what they look like. So you see on the very left, we have different icons basically for the supply chain. Here you see the potential environmental impacts, external challenges that can occur, like environmental disasters or so on. And of course, with the green cards, illustrate an illustration of the options. And here is an example on the lower right side of the outcome poster. As I mentioned, we have developed 3 posters that are available. And just to give you a few more impressions on what this VET chain looks like in practice, on this picture in the lower middle, you see, for example, that in one station the participants opted to set up 2 vocational training professions that play a role at this particular station along the supply chain. And you see they have also drawn a few pictures, of the professions. So it is quite interactive, and you see lots of notes also on these templates. You can also see that, there are quite some engaging discussions in the workshop, and the idea is actually that all the participants actively get involved or observe what is happening. So usually you have the 2 approaches, and it's actually pretty interesting, to see what the active participants report later on, their kind of thinking process throughout the workshop, and also what the observers report on after the workshop. Here you also see again, what the supply chain looks like, towards the end. You see it is quite full. You see these orange cards indicating the potential threats. It is quite an impactful picture that we draw with that workshop tool that we have developed, because on the one hand you see the impacts, they are quite drastic when you look at the supply chains and the different threats that can occur and challenges, but we also provide the opportunity to give it a positive twist by adding the ideas and developing them actually together in that group and within the workshop. So how can this VET chain tool now be used? Actually, on the one hand, you can use it basically, as I said initially, for any supply chain. We have developed a few, icons ourselves, but it can be adapted to any product, but also to any service that you can think of. Of course, it's always a challenge, because when we talk about supply chains, usually they are globally interconnected and intertwined and so on. So when preparing a VET chain workshop, the moderating team, of course, has to, think of, making it complex, yes, but not too complex, so that the participants can still grasp the value chain and not lose themselves into too many details. And where can it be used? Basically, we have designed it in such a way that it is quite open when it comes to implementation and application. We think it can be used quite nicely in cooperation projects on international level as well. It can also be used in workshops where the idea is to develop new curricula for a specific sector, for example, and you want to pay particular attention to aspects of sustainability. But we also think it is a very powerful tool to be used with trainers and teachers, because this might provide them with a very interactive and tangible workshop tool to actually, come from these broad terms of sustainability to an implementation level, and to really have them more concrete ideas on how they can use this tool. What are the next steps now that you heard us talk about VetChain? I mean, there will be the breakout session. We will host one of the breakout sessions that we will continue the program with now. But of course, you can go to our website already, get more information on how we have developed it, how it looks like. And soon, actually, we will also make the materials available online, so it can also be downloaded, and that the templates for the cards and everything can be downloaded and reproduced locally in anywhere around the world. There's also a moderation guideline that we have developed. However, we recommend before using it, it's always good to actually go through and participate in a workshop yourself, because it is quite complex to moderate this kind of workshop. And this is why we also offer on-site physical workshops free of charge at BIBB, at the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training in Bonn, in Germany. We have put the dates here. For now, we plan to have these workshops in German, but as we have just basically started with the dissemination of this workshop tool, we are open to suggestions, and if you want to share your experience with us, if you want to get to know more about the VetChain tool, get in touch with us, and let's see how we can support you with the realization of having a VetChain workshop in your own project or in your own context. So that's it. Very briefly to discuss to present the VetChain tool to you. We look forward to your questions. I see there was already a lot of discussion in the chat. Thank you very much for your questions. I don't know, Hanno, is there any question where you say we should, provide the answer now to everyone before we hand back out to our colleagues from the committee?
Thank you first for the questions, and it is applicable in all respects. Just imagining a product or a service and then going down the supply chain. And I think it's important to note that it is not dependent on the vet system in the context. It can be also informally. It can be strictly like in the dual countries. And but to raise the awareness, the sensitivity that persons can do something to actually have a share in making this supply chain a bit more sustainable and more transparent also, that might be the biggest impact. So as Julia said, we are open also for suggestions or challenges wherever it is possible and wherever our schedule allows it. We would love to share the experience in presence, and then if we are successful also online. This is a bit of a challenge, that the machine is not the message, but the message is more in the foreground. So please do contact us. Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much. That was really a very insightful introduction to your tool. I think that's a very hands-on tool. I liked it very much when you introduced it to us for the first time. I found it really to bring this mystical concept of the value chain, the supply chain, down to something more tangible, more concrete, practical. That was for me really a big eye opener, and I can foresee it's a very interesting tool to be applied in our partner countries, in the context of our partner countries, and really to engage the dialogue, the collaboration among the various stakeholders of the supply chain. So no, congratulations for this tool. And I think, as I understood from you, we are a bit of a guinea pigs here also today, that it has not been used so often yet. I think Hanno mentioned that you had one workshop with employer associations, political stakeholders, training providers, as well as KfW and GIZ. So I think let's now see how this could be then applied in the context of development cooperation. That's the aim for today, to really see how we can work with this tool in the context of development cooperation. Of course, for today, we will look how online it could work, but I think in your session, you will then also give hints for an application in the field, face-to-face, and I guess that will be very beneficial for everybody. Yeah, thanks a lot. So that was really very good to hear, and we will continue to hear more.